Social Security is saved thanks to Silicon Valley Bank. All right, my friends. So the FDIC is now basically guaranteeing every dollar on deposits at banking institutions. All right. How do they have that? Where's that money come from to guarantee that? Where is that money coming from? Is there a law that allows that? I mean, who knows? But we know for a fact there's no checking account at the FDIC. Right now, they can only guarantee, I think, like 2% of the money they got outstanding anyway at the banks anyway. So it's not like the FDIC just has this magic wand of cash to bankroll all these banks. They don't. It's the federal government that's going to do that. Where's the federal government? We're not even running surpluses. We're running deficits on top of all the debt. Where's the federal government getting all that money from? They're creating out of nowhere. It's the nature of the Ponzi scheme that is fractional reserve. That's all there is to it, man. There's no two ways around this. Now, you can argue all day long it's not legitimate, it's bad, but it doesn't matter. It is what it is. Good or bad, what you think about good or bad has nothing to do with the reality at hand. So the reality at hand is simple. The banks are being bankrolled by the FDIC through the federal government. That's all there is to it. So what does that mean for Social Security? Well, it's obvious. If they can do this for the federal government or for the banks, they can certainly do it for Social Security and your retirement money. Does anyone actually think they're going to wake up on, what is it now, 2035, and the Social Security Trust, when it's insolvent, and they're only going to pay you 77 cents on the dollar? Does anyone actually think that? Are you freaking nuts? They backstopped the banks because they didn't want systemic chaos in the financial markets. You think the bank's bad? Wait till you have millions of retirees who go to cash their Social Security check and realize it's only 77 cents on the dollar. Yeah, that ain't going to fly, dude. The federal government will backstop that. With what money? It's the same Ponzi scheme money that will ultimately fail. We know this. Will it fail in our generation? Probably not. Will it fail in my kids' generation? Probably not. But it's going to fail. What's to replace it? I have no clue. What's to cause it to fail? I have no clue. But it will fail because it has to. It's inevitable. Ponzi schemes always fail. But that doesn't mean you keep working, because like, if I don't work, man, the Ponzi scheme is going to collapse. I won't get my Social Security. That's just freaking stupid. That's dumb. Don't be like that. Say, okay, yeah, it's a Ponzi scheme. I'm going to take advantage of it the best I can, because this is all I can. What am I supposed to do? I can't do anything about it. I mean, it's just that simple, man. And so what you have is you got to say, okay, so if they can backstop the banks, they can backstop Social Security. And let me just read you this from my man Andrew Biggs over at AEI, and just to let you very, very clearly paint the picture that Social Security is saved. You should not worry about losing a penny of your Social Security benefits. It's not going to happen, man. The level of absurdity from people that I'm not going to get any Social Security benefits. I'm only going to get 77 cents on the dollar. I don't get it when I'm sitting there thinking, wait. We don't have money to fund all this other stuff, in terms of surpluses versus deficits, and yet we still do. So explain that, please. Well, Social Security, what they'll say here, check this out. That's what people say. Dedicated Social Security taxes, said FDR, are politics all the way through. We put those payroll contributions there so to give the contributors a legal, moral, and political right to collect their pensions and their unemployment benefits. With those taxes in there, no damn politicians can ever scrap my Social Security program, because we paid it. We have a right to it. It is an entitlement. Those taxes aren't a matter of economics. They're straight politics. Yep. Attempts to reduce Social Security are not countered merely with arguments based on need, but upon the perceived unfairness of cutting benefits for Americans understandably believe they have paid for their benefit. All right, so let's keep going down here. Along with this citizens level relationship, the Social Security's finances were set up differently than most other government programs. While the Defense Department is funded each year based on Congress's perceived needs and priorities, Social Security is legally empowered to pay only those benefits affordable via its dedicated revenue sources. All right, so legally empowered to pay the benefits that they got the money for, which they get through payroll taxes, and a small amount coming from of the other income taxes relied on Social Security benefits. All right, so he's sitting right now. Social Security cannot go to the general fund and take money out to pay their benefits. All right, so that's what all these naysayers are going to say. They only have the legal ability to take what they already have in there on their bonds that they essentially accumulated. Now check this out. The Social Security trust fund balances themselves are built upon surpluses of payroll tax over the prior years. The surpluses, which occur from 1984 through 2009, are invested in special non-tradable U.S. government bonds. These earn interest, all right, at market rates, which is reinvested into the additional bonds. That's the trust fund. So we got the interest on the bonds, we got the payroll taxes, we got a little bit of tax on retirement benefits that are funding Social Security, all right? And Social Security is legally empowered to pay only the benefits afforded via its dedicated revenue sources, which again, the bonds that they have in the surplus, the income for the payroll tax, the income for the payroll taxes they get, and then the income tax on the retirement benefits. That's it. All right, so that's where everyone's like, ah, nuts, man. All right, so let's check this out. Because Social Security was set up as a self-financing program, it has no legal authority to call upon additional revenues to pay the benefits once the trust fund runs dry. Again, they can't go into the general fund and take money to finance Social Security. And you hear people say that Social Security can never add to the national debt is more or less this letter of the law perspective they're adhering to. They're basically saying Social Security is self-funding. Once the self-funding mechanism is gone, there's nothing that can be done about Social Security. That's what they'll argue, and that's freaking insanity. Insanity on steroids, as we can see what happened at Silicon Valley Bank. Silicon Valley Bank. Remember that. If it can be done for Silicon Valley Bank, it will be done for Social Security. I'm going to show you why. However, there's another way of looking at Social Security that focuses less on its financial structures and legal rules and more on the economics. In this viewpoint, which is largely how agencies such as the CBO and economists look at the program, Social Security is one of federal benefits among many. Payroll taxes come to the government and payroll and benefits flow out, but their effect on the economy depends on how they merge with everything else the federal government does. All right? So keep this out. From the perspective of Social Security solvency, while having legal importance, carries less financial and economic weight. To illustrate, check this out. Consider in 2034, the final projected year of solvency for the trust fund. The program will cost the federal government 5.9% of GDP. Of that, Social Security only has 4.8% of that to cover. So they have a 1.1% deficit. All right? And where do they get the deficit? They have a legal right to go into their trust fund. This is the last year we have the money and gather that 1.1% deficit to pay the benefits. And thus the trust fund is gone. At that point, the payroll taxes will only cover about 75% of the benefits. So, okay. Now, fast forward to 2035, the year in which the trust fund becomes insolvent. Social Security costs remain at 5.9% of GDP. And its tax revenues are still only 4.8%. The only difference now is that Social Security has no legal right to 1.1% of GDP from the general revenues because it's gone from the trust fund. It cannot go to the general revenue and say we have a legal right to that money. All right? But the federal government's ability to provide those transfers has not disappeared. Just because Social Security can't go and demand it doesn't mean it can't happen. That's my whole argument since I've been doing this YouTube channel. We don't have the legal right to the 1.1% deficit we have from the general fund. No, you don't. The Congress can certainly say we're going to fund that just like they do everything else, which is exactly what's going to happen. If Congress voted to continue transferring those funds even after the trust fund ran dry, Social Security would continue to pay full benefits. In this government-wide perspective, neither the cost of Social Security nor the federal government's ability to bear that cost change much when Social Security becomes insolvent. The only thing that changes is Social Security would no longer have the legal right to call upon the taxes or to call upon the reserves of its trust fund because there is any reserves. Whether the federal government should nevertheless continue transferring those additional funds is a public policy argument, not an economic one. Continuing such transfers would prevent a 20% across-the-board cut in Social Security benefits. Hardly a trivial matter. But Social Security is no longer a freestanding, self-reliant program. That would be the negative of it. I mean, dude, it's FDIC, PBGC, defense budget, everything, none of this is freestanding, self-reliant. None of it is. The reason FDR created Social Security the way he did would show people had skin in the game. I paid into it. I want my benefits. And if you think backstopping FDIC is more important than Social Security, you're freaking nuts. You're nuts, dude. Again, the whole thing will collapse. And I don't even know what collapse means. I don't know if we're going to be sitting there like the road and we're all freaking eating human bodies. I have no clue. You don't have any clue. It's silly to even speculate. But to sit there and work in a crappy old job while your weight is ballooning, your freaking blood pressure is going through the roof, you're stressed out, you're on a road 1.5 hours each way, and roads are very dangerous. 50,000 people a year die in car crashes, whatever it is. It makes no sense. Or not to use Social Security in your retirement plan because it's not going to be there. It's dumb. Don't be dumb, man. All right, love your thoughts. We'll see you.